It's time for Bees with Dr. Bir. And Dr. Bir, you've done a great job to get some beehives out here.
Yes, this is the first year the Student Farm has had bees out here. Typically, when you have a first-year hive, you will not get honey that first year, but we were very lucky. The weather was really great. We had a lot of rainfall here in Stillwater, and so we were actually able to harvest honey today.
Wow, so the bees have been active then?
Very active.
And bees, you know, when you talk about this beekeeping, how is that classified in Oklahoma?
So honeybees are livestock. They're actually an invasive species. They are not native to the United States. So all of the rules and benefits that apply to beef, cattle, and goats, and sheep, and all of those things also apply to honeybees.
So we have livestock here.
You have livestock.
Okay, so walk us through a little bit. You didn't expect to get honey this year, but you did. So what do you do? How do you get it?
Sure. So management of bees is really controlling space. And so at the start of the year, the nucleus, which is what we had, which is basically kind of looks like a tote of bees.
Okay.
And they have frames, they have baby bees, there's honey in there, there's pollen in there, there's an active laying queen. So we installed that nucleus into the Student Farm hive, and then we cultivated that beehive. And so that looked like providing resources from established hives that I brought out here. That looked like feeding them in the early spring while they got established. And then once they had filled that bottom box and a medium box, we put a honey super on. And at that point, we stopped feeding. You never want to feed when you have honey supers on because you create what some people call funny honey.
Okay.
You want the honey that's produced by nectar.
Yeah.
And so once we had that super on, you know, everyone at the farm was very excited, hoping that we would get some honey. And I kept telling them, well, they maybe will just add wax to those frames. We may not get honey, but we did get honey this year.
More than just wax.
More than just wax, we got the actual honey.
Yeah.
So now that we're kind of in the fall season and there's not as much out here for the bees, we went ahead and pulled that honey. We're treating for mites, which is a pretty standard practice this time of year, so that we have really healthy bees going into winter.
Yeah.
So right now, the bees that are being born, they'll live all winter long.
That's great, because we want them to do their thing next year.
Exactly. So we left plenty of honey for them. We harvested the honey this morning, and we're ready to go.
So walk us through that harvest. What's the first step? How do we get it?
So be prepared.
I like that.
We're going to have a few bee puns here today, but being prepared. So I am an economist, so I'm going to talk some prices.
Yeah.
It's important to know your costs, what you have in your beehive. We do have some budgets through OK State Extension to help you kind of figure that out.
Okay, so when we're ready, we got all the supplies ready. Kind of walk us through. What does this look like? Yeah.
So your supplies are, of course, your jars of choice. Yeah. And then you'll need your label.
Gotta have a label.
Your label has to have information on it, and this is required by the Apiary Act, which governs all beekeeping rules in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So you need to have your farm name, a contact phone number, the location. There's a little debate about this. People feel a little uncomfortable putting their address on a honey label.
Address on there,
the farm address is fine. You could technically put a longitude and latitude if you wanted to.
Okay.
I always like to remind people that property records are public in Oklahoma.
That's true.
So if people wanted to find your address, they could do it anyways.
Right.
So follow the rules, and then the net weight of the honey. So some labels will have a blank space for you to write if you don't know, or if you're going to do different size jars. It does take a little bit of planning. So the honey is actually sold by weight, not volume.
Okay, so we're going to weigh it out.
We're going to weigh it out.
Okay.
And honey is heavier than water. So if you have, for example, the jars we use today are 6-ounce jars, there's a little bit of space at the top of that jar because really it could hold 8 ounces roughly of honey.
Yeah, but 6 ounces by weight fills up that little bit
of
smaller.
Space.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So you have your labels ready. You have your jars washed. And then you have your extractor. You either purchased one. There's lots of options for extractors. We used a manual extractor today because...
So we got to work out.
We got to work out.
Okay.
Got your workout in, and I'm also a cheap economist, right? So I'm like, I'll use some labor. But obviously, if you have 10, 15, 20 hives, having a electric extractor would probably be a better bet.
Maybe save your arm a little bit.
Save your arm.
Yeah. And plus, you got to make sure it's evenly distributed, right? Or it'll shake on you.
And there's different sizes. So we used a 3-frame extractor. They go up to 6 and 8 frames. Okay. So some of those are very big.
So that'd be very large. Yeah.
Yes.
So walk us through. You got that frame.
Yes.
How do you get the honey out of there?
So the thing about beekeeping is there's always lots of options.
Okay.
A lot of people will use a knife,
Yeah.
so either a very hot knife that cuts through that wax capping.
Okay.
Today we actually picked off the cappings.
Okay.
The reason why we did that, again, we're small, so we
Yeah.
can spend a little bit more time. We want to preserve as much of that wax as we can
Yeah.
because we'll store those frames very carefully all winter long.
Yeah.
In the spring, once they filled back up that bottom and that medium, and we add the supers back on, you'll get even more honey next year.
Okay.
Because it takes about 5 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax.
So it saves some time, it saves some work.
It saves some work and
Yeah.
some resources,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why it tends to be that second year, beekeepers maybe don't get quite as much honey, and then the third and fourth year, it tends to level out a little bit
Right.
because you have some of those resources in terms of
Right.
drawn out wax.
So you got that wax, and then what? You're going to put it into the extractor?
Yes, so
Yeah.
you uncap both sides,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the extractor. Each component of the extractor needs to have a frame.
Okay.
So let's say you're getting towards the end of your harvest and you only have 2 frames that have honey, but you have a 3-frame extractor, put an empty frame in there to keep
Just
the
to
balance.
balance it out? Yeah. Okay.
So you put the frames in there, and then you either push a button
Yeah.
or hand crank like
Yeah.
we did,
Yeah.
and then you flip it. So once you've extracted that honey, you turn it
Turn it around.
because it's centrifugal force.
And then do it again.
And do it again.
Okay. Okay, then you got lots of honey in there. So
Yes.
now what? What do we do? How do we get that out?
Right. You can purchase buckets that already have the spigots attached.
Yeah.
They're a little bit harder to find and they're more expensive.
Okay.
So typically what people will do as they're preparing for honey harvest, maybe in the winter or in
Yeah.
the summer, is you will buy buckets.
Okay.
You can get them at the farm store. You need to make sure they're BPA free
Okay.
and food grade.
Okay, very important, right?
Very important to
Yeah.
be food grade.
Yeah.
You drill a hole the size of the spigot. A spigot can be purchased either at a beekeeping store,
Okay.
online. Farm stores actually have pretty big bee sections now,
Yeah.
so you can buy a lot of those things
And just make it your own.
and make your own.
Okay.
We do have an online course. We have a beginning beekeeping online course. We cover everything you really need to know in the first 2 years, and we have diagrams on how to build out some of this equipment that you need.
What a great resource.
It is great.
OSU Extension.
OSU Extension. So once you have your bucket pre-assembled, most people will filter the honey. When I say filter, we're not doing anything, we're not pasteurizing it, we're not
Okay.
doing anything crazy invasive, but they make these filters that go on top of the buckets.
Okay.
And that
So then you
basically...
just pour it right over.
Yeah, so the spigot, will release into the filter.
Open it up, comes
There's
out.
usually a bigger mesh and then a smaller mesh.
Yeah.
And you're really filtering out maybe some of the wax cappings.
Gotcha.
There may be some bee legs or pieces of grass or other things. I mean, these hives are outdoors, right?
They are, yeah.
And so that filtration just kind of makes sure that your honey doesn't have any of those pieces in it.
Okay. So you get all that out. Now you've got the stuff.
Right. So
You
now
got the
you
real
have
deal honey.
Yeah, you have a bucket with a
Yeah.
spigot, and it's time to fill your jars.
Okay.
Some beekeepers will let that honey sit,
Okay.
maybe even overnight.
All right.
Basically to make sure that the bubbles all go to the top.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I didn't mention earlier is moisture level.
Yeah.
So we today harvested only capped honey. We had checked the moisture level
Sure.
in advance as we were pulling it. But a lot of people have a refractometer.
Okay.
And you will check the moisture of the honey before you bottle it.
Okay.
If the moisture level is too high, then it can ferment in the jar.
And that's not good.
And that is not good. There's lots of different refractometers out there. This year in particular, with all the rain we got in Oklahoma, there were beekeepers that were reporting high water contents
Okay.
in honey, more so than other years where it's drier.
Sure. Okay, so now we're ready to weigh it out.
Yes.
Okay.
So some people maybe eyeball it.
Yeah.
Again, as an economist, I'm trying to get as many jars as I can.
Yeah.
So we actually weigh out the honey, and then we wipe down the jar and then add the label. And we talked about the labeling requirements. People may ask, like, well, what about wax candles and what about lip balm and all
Okay,
of those things?
sure.
You can make those products. There are some other rules if you start making cosmetics. We have a fact sheet on it.
Yeah.
We also have budgets to help you price those things.
Very important. Right.
Yes.
And then, so if I have a jar of honey versus maybe having the honey straws or something,
Right.
totally different regulations, right?
So the honey straws are still the same as the jars. Where the regulation changes is if you start doing chili infused honey.
Okay, you start
or
adding things to
honey
it.
butter.
So it's that
Then
value add.
value add.
Okay.
You've now fallen under a different category of regulations.
Right. But you've got all the info.
We do. We
and
do.
people should go look for it.
Yes, if you typically search for OK State honeybees, our
Yeah.
honeybee page pops up, and we have all of our fact sheets listed there as well as our online course.
Well, what a great resource, what great information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Bir.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.